Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Poets Club of Chicago Reading. Let me tell you a little bit about Jared. Jared is a past member of the Chicago Poets Club and the past president of Poets and Patrons. He's the author of 14 volumes of poetry. His poems and literary commentary have appeared in journals and anthologies in the United States, Canada, Mexico, the United Kingdom, and in translation in mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. He is poetry editor of Turtle Island Quarterly and has served on the editorial boards of such journals as Home Planet News and the New York Quarterly, as well as on the board of directors of literary and arts nonprofits in New York, Illinois, and Colorado, where he now lives. His work is included in the Colorado Encyclopedia from Colorado Humanities, and he's listed in the Colorado Poet Center, Poets and Writers, and as a scientific researcher and poet in Who's Who in America since 2000. He was Director of Education and Research at a prominent international research facility, technical and policy advisor to several White House commissions under President Clinton, and a special appointee to Argonne National Laboratory. Wonderful person and fabulous poet. Please welcome Jared.
Okay, I'm going to read some poems that are a series I've been working on right now or over the past couple of months. And don't feel you have to applaud because I wouldn't hear you anyway with the voices, with the muting. Hi, Dave Gitchick. There is a song in all poetry. There is a song in my poetry. Every line, every stanza, every poem, each poem an open aria into another, and they change one to the next, and 1 year to the next they change. One book becomes another, and each book becomes another psalm, the song of workers and looms and chains and sweat and heartbreak. But there is always the song. There is always the love, the sweet whisper of sun on mountain meadows, the deer pausing to drink at the stream, and the stream with its magenta flowers finding its way among dark stones that hold the night tight in their sides. And it is always so in each poem we write. There is a song that sings of us and of our homes and lives. There is a song that keeps us going, a song that has filled our literature and we have raised our institutions with, and that we sing to our children each night. It changes through the years, but is there. I have not found how to write this song for the cold waves that rise around our ankles, for the kind of sands that wrap about our feet now at this time and in this dark place. But I will do so. Already I can hear the murmurs of others learning how. The sun goes down beneath molten clouds. After the last players have left our park, this evening I step out onto the deck by myself, and the winds are blowing a gale from the east. The winds fill the flesh beneath my jacket. The job says there is no reason for me to be here, where I can be scooped by the monsters of the evening. My flesh will be swallowed as yours without reason. But tonight, as if it made a difference, I will howl into the wind. And if there is no one left to hear the echoes of time bouncing off the nova stars that lent us life long ago, still there is a naked child within me, and it is cold, and it howls with the echo of its birthplace, and somehow that is the reason that it howls. And this night, the wind blows across our souls. Somehow, the soul still soars. Birds fly heavy in the evening. No songs to sing, no worms to catch, just the long trip homeward over fields and houses and empty highways. The great blue heron, ghostly gray, soaring its way into shadows over its mirrored estuary farm pond, over the tall grasses, the reeds that bend in the wind, the trails only those of tooth and claw follow. He has dipped his mouth in the mud of our cities and feasted on frogs, eels, salamanders, and ancient decay. His wingspan is immense in our time. Time covers everything. The city of Minneapolis is burning tonight. The law has placed its knee on a man's throat. The cities of Denver and of Los Angeles burn. More than 150 years gone by, and white sheets have been placed everywhere. Men struggle to support their families in cities, in fields and houses and empty highways, in the shadows mirrored over farm ponds, where the souls of men still somehow soar. Time covers everything that bends in the wind. Say what you want about mankind's massive skull or the number of neurons and his complexity of thought. He's more like a gerbil in a cage when under pressure, tearing the flesh off those around him, stripping limbs from his fellow creatures, leaving them on the floor, killing himself in effect, though for noble causes. Because there is always a place for noble causes, as we can see from the first 9 months within a cage. For 200 years, men were hated and hanged for the color of their skin or for their poverty, but for 200 years, it was easy to forget again and again, but not after you put all the white men in a cage with all the black men and all the yellow men and all Native Americans too, shut down in a social cage. And damn if they don't hate each other and tear apart the society that made them what they are, and them with no idea of how to put it right at the end. And when the cages start to open, they all pour out, and they have no words beyond their self-hatred, and they crush their flesh together, flesh of animals hungry for sex and reproduction and seduction, more like gerbils in a cage than what we call humanity. Now that it happens, there are no messages. The blackberry is empty, thorn bushes coated with ice, and the space between each twig as empty as last autumn's winds. No poets have called, no friends. Some of us are missing, some gone, some made silent by the winds shifting over our tombstones, buildings along high highways. Those words are naked branches tipped against a rusty sunrise. No doubt some green shoots lie within, some sap pushing its way upward toward the sun, its roots remember in the darkness deep beneath dawn. It was of many parts. The pandemic came, and it was not of a single virus. It came from creatures of the night and was ignored until it shut down cities. And the cities, too, were the pandemic, and the people in them sheltered in squalid television rooms, crazed by media violence, and their food chains were cut off while their politicians blustered, and their black brothers were murdered, just like in those crazed TV dramas paid for by corporations out of business, carried on the shoulders of essential workers left without masks to face the deaths that would overwhelm their hospitals. All those doctors, nurses, grocers, busboys, delivering all the life and death they had to those squalid TV rooms of media. And this too was the pandemic. And no one knew that all were essential, and each and every one could be gunned down one way or another in this great pandemic. And so the people crowded together as one, but unable to talk as they were used to, and blinded by the blindfold of custom. Too many ripped off their masks and marched and became gravestones marching forward. And this death too was of the pandemic. And the corporations failed, and the workers lost their jobs and their families and lives, and the little shops on the corner were no more than empty caves with shattered windows. And the police marches with their badges, and the police union urging them to violence, and the NRA urged the militias to violence. And this too was of the pandemic that took us. These were the three horsemen of the apocalypse that came upon us in those first 9 months. These were the first that came after we called for them with our blind policies for years. And then there were the marching dead joining arms and marching as one, and a gaunt gray horse starving at the corner, waiting for another rider to join in. It is not a soft song. The song is never going to be a soft song until the dead are buried and ghosts haunt our dreams. This is the way it has always been. The dying do not sing in churches. Their songs must overcome those who march with rifles and AK-47s. Their songs must overcome starvation, must overcome the overlords who cage them, cannot be confined to academic halls, and yet reverberate in the salons of wealthy patrons. Their songs impossible to sing without rage, that fuses into sunsets 1 year beyond tomorrow. Chaucer's pilgrim wanders into Boccaccio's Decameron, armed only with a candelabra and electric harmonica, and grieves as the rats begin to dance again. At this time in our country, the fires are lit in small shacks down by the river, and in the back country where beggars warm their hands, and in rusted oil drums in train yards, behind the tall grasses, the hot rails that run out across our country. The fires are lit where men meet, outside empty factory floors where the wheels have fallen off. The fires rage against the night, and they are lit in empty beer cans on sofas in front of televisions where the flames burn down houses across our nation's streets. The fires are lit in country pubs and at nameless roadside stops and diners on the edge of cities. They roar through urban bars and clubs, consuming the beautiful men and women who wish to live and love among the embers that will light still larger conflagrations. The fires are lit and cannot be contained. And in closing, a boy on a long dirt road. It is the time darkness rises from the earth, wades through the leaves of fescue grass, dapples the dandelions growing wild, and filters through magenta tulips, climbs stealthily the deep furrows lining the trunks of cottonwoods, wrapping their towering crowns that pull back into the wind of summer. A boy walks along a dirt road that rises up as dusty clouds rise about his feet at each step, and it too is dark and growing deeper. There is probably a well-lit house just beyond the next hill, the next turn, but light no longer reaches here. The boy may stumble over a small rock or catch his toe upon a broken root, but he keeps on. There is no turning back. And this is when the darkness finds voice, as rosy finches return to their nests and deer move along their hidden paths, and an owl somewhere begins its search. This is where he pauses at last to listen, aware of how the night sees him, of the eyes that glisten from above. And it is now he fills his lungs with the air and light of evening, and his steps resume, and the hill that rose before him is crested, and the moon comes out, and there is no well-lit house, no home, waiting beyond the bend, beyond what he will build somehow. Thank you.
Jared. That was fabulous. That was fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful, Jared.
Thank
Really
you.
nice.
Thank you.